They say a man's potential is limited by the world he's born into. But what if the world was wrong? What if the ceiling everyone accepted was only a sheet of glass waiting to be shattered? The blue aura in Liu Cheng's rooms no longer felt like energy, it felt like a gateway. He activated the interface, the glow of the air reflecting in his eyes like a dying star. He wasn't searching for a simple improvement, he wanted the forbidden. Search for the mature Tao, he said, based on my current limit. The AI responded instantly. Walls of crimson text flooded the room, thousands of cultivation paths, thousands of lives he could never leave. The sheer width of history felt suffocating, but he only needed one path. He refined the search to the absolute best method available for tier 1 martial artists. 10,000 results, 5,000, 1,000, then the screen flickered, total result 3. Liu Cheng breathing slowed. They weren't ordinary manuals, they were inheritance left behind by level 11 expert of the Martial Alliance. In the current age, the strongest known martial artist barely stood at level 9. Everything people worship as his peak of power was insignificant compared to what now hovered before him. This was secret from the realms of strength that should not longer exist. The database identified itself as a revelation resource library, the final archive created by masters who knew humanity would fall. Unable to stop extinction, they hide their legacy in daughter, waiting for someone strong enough or desperate enough to inherit them. Liu Cheng chose the one that sounded the most impossible, Tao body refining technique. Its purpose was simple: forge the human body into a miniature universe. He wasn't training to become a better fighter anymore, he was training to become something beyond human. Then the moment they confirmed the stories, the room began to tremble, the air vibrated, the blue aura surged violent around him, the revelation and truly began, and he was the only one holding the key. Deep within his veins, the transformation was no longer theory, it had become a violent, systematic reconstruction. Every drop of blood began to hum with a strange new frequency. He could feel the refinement of his key reaching into every cell, and then his body into something that no longer felt entirely human. Then the chilling realization struck him. Everything he had practiced before, all the legendary techniques he once admired, were nothing more than a shared exercise routine compared to this. This was a leap in power, measured not by step but by words. Then the thing escalated. The dangerous need to reshape his body. He needed to reshape the way he survived. Next, he whispered, eyes fixed on the glowing crimson text, the natural breathing technique. One breath, that was all it took. The instant air entered his lungs didn't feel like oxygen, it ignited. Searing heat exploded from his core, running through his limbs like a molten melter. He wasn't breathing anymore, he was feeding with fullness. His skin began to glow faintly. Then the temperature in the room surged upward as internal heat threatened to melt everything around him. But the worst part was deeper. His blood was boiling. Pain ripped through him like wildfire. There wasn't physical training. It was war between body and mind that tried to see whether his will would break before his flesh adapted, and yet, beneath the agony, he felt exhilaration. If this was only the forced breathing method, what terrifying height existed beyond it? He forced his trembling hands to steady. Pain was only a barrier, a gatekeeper. Then his eyes shifted towards a new crystalline interface. Crystal visualization technique, the most mysterious aspect of martial duel. Temper the mind, purify the spirit, and shape in the will. He understood instantly. If his mind collapsed now, the fire in his veins will devour him from the inside out. Liu Cheng lowered himself into meditation. The blue aura around him became calm yet sharper than a blade. Let me try. He closed his eyes and realized he had just tapped into a void he wasn't sure he could return from. The silence in the void wasn't empty, it was heavy. As Liu Cheng drifted deeper, the blue light of his soul flickered against a colossal ghostly silhouette, a giant frozen in eternal meditation. In this realm, mental strength wasn't philosophy, it was survival. He understood then that the path of a true martial artist was never built on mercy alone. It was built on a mind that refused to break. But standing before the impossible present, Liu Cheng felt small, insignificant. He couldn't tell if he was mastering the technique or if the technique was consuming him. A voice shouted. Liu Cheng gasped violently as his eyes flew open. He crashed back into reality. Sprawled across the floor from his room, his lung burned, his heart slammed against his ribs like a trapped beast. It didn't feel like waking up, it felt like returning from death. Then he noticed his skin was coated in dark, vicious filth. A foul-smelling reside clung to his body from the head to toe. But instead of the scores, it felt light, clean. The dream realm hadn't only tempered his mind, it was rewriting his body. By commanding the star body refining technique with a natural breathing method, he had begun forcing impurity from his bone and blood. He rose slowly, peeled away his ruined clothes and looked into the mirror. The difference was undeniable. His motions were denser, his eyes were sharper, his entire presence was changed. In his hand rested a small vial filled with shimmering liquid. Its glow was unnatural, its value immeasurable. If the secret of the dream could be brought into reality, it wouldn't just become the strongest student in school, it could overturn medicine itself. But power never stays hidden for long. Later at school, the atmosphere felt different when Liu Cheng handed over his ID. A stranger tension passed between him and his instructor. He nodded calmly, playing the role of a quiet student, but the disguise was beginning to crack. As Liu Cheng turned to leave, his teacher's eyes remained fixed on his back. There was a weight in his footstep now, authority, danger, and for a brief moment, it almost looked like a cold blue aura blended from his shadow. The instructor felt the chill run through him. He couldn't no longer read this boy. Liu Cheng was no longer just a student, it was becoming something the world was not ready to face. To the outside world, Liu Cheng was just a student who had finally found his momentum. But beneath the calm surface, his body had become a ticking clock. His blood key could no longer keep pace with the power grown inside of him. And a martial wood and balance like that was fatal. The strength and display of the academy was only a shadow of what it was becoming. A grip the black credit card like a lifeline. He grabbed the black credit card like a lifeline. He already possessed the knowledge, formula for music, blood, and antidote soap, bone nourishing pills and other methods pulled from the future that had yet to happen. But knowledge without resources mean nothing. He needed a laboratory, a professional place where herbs, minerals, and medicine could be refined into full for evolution. So he visited pharmacy after pharmacy and found only rejection. You want to rent our lab? The laughter of the shopkeepers is other than the insult. To them, it was just a teenager in training clothes pretending to be an alchemist. One door closed, then another. Then the 7 slammed on his face. But Liu Cheng didn't react. He had no time for wounded pride. He looked down on the bag in his hand, twisted roots, bitter herbs, strange fungi, and meant nothing to ordinary eyes. Then he checked the balance on the card Miss Zong had given him, 80,000 credits, more than promised. The instructor had quietly added his own savings, an act of faith, or a desperate gamble on the one person who might change what was coming. Even so, a top-tier lab remained out of reach. Liu Cheng lifted his gaze towards the darker corners of the city. If the world refused to give him a place at the table, he would build his one in secret. He would buy the equipment himself. He would brew for forbidden formulas alone and then force his body through transformation no one should survive. Because the recipe from the future wasn't just medicine, it was a key. And once that door opened, there would be no turning back. That's another wonderful episode. As Liu Cheng said, there won't be turning back. So if you want to listen to more of this recap for the next episode, please kindly turn on your notification, subscribe, and share. And I'll be with you. And if you're kind of interested in this sort of stories, there's a link in the description below. You can check it out and you see more of the stories. Thank you. I'll see you later.